Hi, everybody. I am going to walk you through the entirety of midterms week in this video um, since the classes are all so short. So this is a Google Slides presentation that I have made for you. You can chop it up, reuse it, remix it however you want, but it's on our Canvas page up at the top and also under handouts. So the week of the 29th is all about conferences for the most part. If you're still approving people's projects, or if you're doing individual conferences during these class days, that's wonderful. All of the rest of the time really the time in those classes are for that. Each class, there are two additional parts to think about. The first one is a genre talk that happens in the first 15 minutes or so. And then right at the end, in the last 5 minutes, you should check in, point them toward the little bits of homework that there are at the end of the binder days, and also collect from them exit slips, which describe the work that they've been doing in the field, doing their research on that day. They're responsible for doing work on these projects during that day and for accounting for what they did. So make sure that you get those. The handout for those is under handouts on our Canvas page. So let me talk you through this. You can present it kind of like this to your students, or adapt it as you need. So on Monday, your genre talk is about the genre of field notes. I'm calling these genre talks because the focus here is on reinforcing the idea that different genres of writing have their own internal rules, and that those rules reflect the utility of the genre. So field notes are shaped and work the way they are because they serve a function, and students are really going to be trying to understand that function as much as they're trying to understand sort of how to put it together. So general specs of this thing, that is 1 to 2 pages, that they're posting it to WordPress. You should have a category for field notes built in to your WordPress already. And that each student is writing it. They aren't writing it as pairs, it's done individually. The components of the genre, one is that it has a narrative of some bit of research that's happened so far, and then the other is that it's a update on how the project's going. Summary and analysis, sort of the basic shape here. But try and get them to focus on one specific piece of the research, not all the research that they've done so far, but one interview they did and what that was like and how it worked. Something small and specific. That's the idea here. It's a way to summarize what's happening and reflect on where it's going, really. So I have them doing some free writes at this point. These are done individually. It's asking them really to try and focus in on the utility of this, about how they want to be seen by their audience when they write this, about the kind of tone and voice that they want to use in this. Really, it's thinking about who's going to read this thing, what's this thing for. It's not just an assignment. It serves a purpose. What's that purpose? That's all of the genre talk for field notes. Takes 15 minutes, depending on how long you give them to free write, and you should hear back some answers once they've done their free writing. They can turn to a partner, probably not their own partner for these kinds of things, because they'll get more varied responses that way, but turn to a partner, share, hear out some answers back, and really make sure everyone gets a sense for this genre. And then you go into conferences. Wednesday, your genre is the poster session. Now this isn't the research poster itself, this is the venue, the event of sharing the poster as a genre. So the general specs are here, that it involves a research poster, that there's a live audience of fellow researchers. That's the important part, is they're just not an audience, they're researchers. And that there's usually a spoken presentation and a Q&A that goes on. They'll do this 8 or 10 times over the course of the hour that the poster session goes on. And I have a picture here of a poster session with lots and lots of posters and people stopping and talking and things like that, just so they get a sense. Probably none of them have taken part in one of these before. Maybe they have, worth asking. A couple of free writes here. The first one asks them to think about who would be interested enough to stop at their poster. I'm trying to get them to think of audience and what would really appeal to their audience. And then the second one, like what visually would draw somebody to their poster and make them interested? What bit of data or graph or picture from their research would really work well within this venue to bring out the social exchange of the poster session? That's the whole thing. You can get a good conversation going about the poster session and about a dialogue and whether they're used to talking about their work when they've done it, what that's like, why that might be challenging, who'd be good at that and who wouldn't be good at that, who's scared of it and who's not. But it's a good time to talk through the fact that they're going to be having an hour-long poster session, 80 minutes really, but some of that is set up and tear down, an hour-long session on the 30th of November where they are in fact going to be talking to an audience, not only of English 101 students, but also graduate students and faculty. So they should start to wrap their heads around that exchange as something they're working toward. Finally, research posters. Specs here, 30 by 40. We're doing it portraits style instead of landscape, I suppose, because that's the way the easels are designed. They know they can print them. They can also make them by hand if they really want to. You can decide about that. Probably some folks will want to, not that many. And that remind them that you'll be spending the whole next week working on poster design and practicing the techniques and revising their drafts. So they don't need to know how to do it all right now. That's not important. I have here, this is a poster taken from the Colin Purrington website, which they had for homework from Wednesday to Friday to start looking around, and they'll be expected to look around it more in the coming weekend. But it lays out a template for how one of these could work. This is a poster about poster design, so if they read it up close, it's pretty meta in that way. This one has slightly different headings than I've designed for the assignment, but they're generally very similar to each other in function. If you look at enough of these, you'll see that some of them have a discussion section, some of them have a conclusion section, some of them have both, some of them have intro, some of them have intro and background. I've just added a few into ours and sort of moved them around a little bit, so it's a little bit better for humanities style projects, I think. But this is the basics of it. This is the way it works. You can talk them through the parts in general, and then I have a partner free write for you to do. Get the partners together, and I want them to write out a full paragraph of explanation that they will ask them to turn it into, so that they actually write it as a paragraph. But the big question that we're asking here is the research poster and a research paper fundamentally have the same parts to them. They cover the same ground. So I want them to think about what are the real differences between these two genres. How do they make meaning in different ways? What are the limitations of one and the other? Is one better than the other? And of course they'll find that one's not better than the other, but they're better at different things. And that's what I want them to really think about, so that they can start to wrap their heads around what they can accomplish and what they should try to accomplish in a research poster. That is the whole thing. I have just walked you through just now all 3 days of midterms week. You'll also be meeting with them for conferences, of course, and then at the end of class, go over the homework and collect their exit slips. That's the week. Hopefully it should be fairly easy on you and give you the chance to really talk to your students, to get to know how their work is coming along, to help set their expectations for where things are going next, and to share your impressions about how they're doing so far. I hope you have a good time with that, honestly. I think it can be a really special time to get to know your students. So please enjoy that, and I will talk to you again later.